太难了。 我正在过来。So we're waiting for President, Vice President Liu Yingqi coming. So I should say something. It's a great honor to have so many special guests and students all over the world coming here. It's a great pleasure to stay with you in the next week. So today is actually the conference day, and the whole day around 40 presenters will present papers in different sessions. And before that, we'll have an opening session, and it's a great honor to invite the special guests, including our Vice President Liu Yingqi and Foundation Professor Wu Zhiqiang will make an opening speech, opening lecture for us in next session. And also we have our chair of architecture department, Rosanna Gu, will also give us the opening speech. I think this is a very interesting platform. As you're seeing, we have this year around 600 people coming to Tongji campus. I think over the last 3 years is a long time we put everything to the internet. So it's virtual workshops. So we haven't seen each other around three years. And I think this year we should coming back to the offline workshop, because at the very beginning, 2020 is a special opportunity for us to understand each other. Although we're facing with different difficulties, COVID, and Digital Futures becomes a very important platform for us to gathering different strengths and facing the special difficulties, start to make inclusive futures based on the study and based on exchanging the knowledge. I think it's time for us growing up facing this kind of optical situation in the history. So in that year, actually, we have over 8,000 participants online in different lectures, different workshops. So in that year, totally, we have 130 workshops in the whole month. And last year, also, I think the workshops number is over 100. But we also have some different feedback, because the quality of the workshop is still very important, because the motivation for us is to actually study. Most of advisors right now, I think this year we have around 80 workshops. I collecting the information. For example, in Shanghai this time we have 28 workshops. 1/3 of the advisor actually used to be the student 6 or 7 years ago. After they got their PhD and after they start to teach in different universities, they're coming back to teaching the new workshop. So it becomes a platform over the past 10 years. We actually educate a generation who are interested in the digital design and robotic fabrication. I think this special topic gave the new generation a special platform, a special methodology to assemble the knowledge through learning, through sharing, and through inclusive manners. We can actually refigure a different paradigm in the learning process. I think it's extremely important for the new generation. That's the special opportunity for us, including my team. We have assistant professor or PhD candidates, postdoctors in my team, around 20 members. I think all of them got a lot of advantage and benefits. We are learning from this platform. We are learning from serving the other people, sharing the other people. I think it's a kind of new ways of the future knowledge. The future knowledge, the most important is sharing, is inclusive, is kind of learning from each other, learning from the young generation. Including we have a lot very young professor, like we mentioned, Zheng Hao, who used to be in 2017 and 2016, he is actually a student in Roland Smith's team, learning how to use robotics. And then he goes to West Coast for his graduate study and also got a PhD from UPenn. I think 3 days ago, Maria Kappel in his lecture actually quoting 3 researchers, including Zheng Hao. I think he is super young, just 30 years old, but his research actually becomes the most prominent representative around the world in AI, in artificial intelligence of architecture. I think that's the platform I think Digital Future produce. I think the growing detours through learning around the world on this platform, knowing a lot of very prominent representative professors, and then apply their PhD. I think this is a platform we produce for all the students to know each other, to bridging different university, different professors to the developing countries. I think that is what we're doing, and we help a generation of students. Last month, I traveled to West Coast, to LA and San Francisco. I met a lot of professors there, and most of them know Digital Futures. Maybe not know me, but know Digital Futures platform, and including like the chair of UCLA. She actually teach twice on Digital Futures platform in 2020 and 2021. I never know that. I never know her. But I think this is a platform for all these elite, avant-garde designers, architects. They want to sharing their new knowledge to the other people and educate a generation. That's what Digital Futures has done over the past 13 years. So congrats for all the participants, the students, architects coming to join us this year. I think it's based on a very complicated selection process. We have around more than 3,000 people apply for this workshops, and finally we have around 550 coming to Tongqing. So our president coming, so I want to start introduction. I think it's actually the video now start. So this is the 13th year actually. I still remember the first year when Ma Qingying actually, he was the former dean teaching USC. He made promotion and the suggestion to set up a platform AAC in China. So that's the first year when Zheng Yu was the dean at that time, and start to organize this event for around 3 years. We collaborated with USC, and I knew New Leach through that platform, because at that time New Leach was teaching in USC. And at that time, every year we organize like 15 workshops and start to invite the prominent architects or the professors from all over the world, including Archimedes. I think this is the 9th year for ICD to join us over the past 30 years, and including Philip Rock from ETH. I think this is the 7th year for his coming, and in Jaha office. Jaha office also, this is the 9th year for Jaha office join us. So I have a lot of friends. And the last year, actually, the Digital Future hubs, we have 10 hubs, 10 different languages, including Japanese, Korean, and India, and also including South Africa, South America. I think from different hubs, actually organize the workshops in different way. And we make something, not just talking. We have some physical workshops like design the bridge and make a bridge every year. And this year we're looking forward to make another one. So looking forward in the next 9 days, we'll have a bridge. And we make a tower to testing different structural performance-based technology with robotic fabrication. This year we want to test that as well. And also we have invited like Roland Snook, like Lisa Endosek, like some young generation over the whole world. They coming to Tongji and actually test the most advanced computational technology and robotic technology, and also including introduce AI. I think this is the first platform in the whole world. We're starting from 2016, 2017 to talk about AI in architecture. And in 2018, the topic of the whole event is architecture intelligence. And right now we use this topic to start a new journal named Architecture Intelligence. So that is the very early for the workshops to put forward questions and put forward different kind of research of this platform. And then this year, every year we have a special topic. This year, the topic is emerging planetarism. The planetarism is last year, One Planet. We're talking about the ethical problems of the climate change, and also some political problem, the war in the world, actually, that's based on the relationship and the research and the methodology philosophies, which should be more than the national and more than the based on the country boundary. It should be a planetary ideas, rethinking on the resources, rethinking on the technology, how we can achieve the future based on this kind of new philosophy thinking. So this year, the topic is emerging planetarism, and the manifesto for Digital Future is sharing. And we actually learning a lot from this part, already mentioned that. So it's a broader ethical and social issues that should more than the technology goes to matter social and important political platform for us of the world. This is all the participants, including the advisors, architects, and also the students all over the world, not only China. I think it's 40% from China, but 60% from all over the world coming to this platform, learning, teaching. I think it's a super big community right now. The participants over the last 12 years, around 15,000 participants. You cannot imagine it's such a big number in our discipline to have so many people actually join us. So this year, this is topic, emerging planetarism, and hopefully in the next week. Today is a conference day, and the next week is a workshop week. So we will make different discussion based on this topic. So in Shanghai this year, because we focus on the offline workshops, we have 23 offline, and still because of big numbers, we're adding 5 online workshops afterwards. So we have 72 advisors join us, instructors join us from 19 countries, and also we have 37 institutions, including 2 universities from Taiwan coming to join us, including Professor Zhang Dongwen, who is a former former president of CDRF. He actually coming to Shanghai this year, teacher, and also another team from Fengjia University is very specially. The whole county member from Fengjia coming to join us this year. And afterwards, we have another branch hub in Hefei. They will organize 7+2 workshops in the following week. They also invited 21 instructors from 6 countries and 15 different institutions. And after that, from the middle of July to the end of July, New Leach, because he is right now staying in the west coast of San Francisco, he actually organized another 40 workshops and based on 6 different languages. And I think they all online. Is showing the whole 1 month event and goes to not only offline but also online as well. And this is the numbers, 19 countries. We have 52 from China, but a diverse, a big number from another 18 countries, and also institutions including Harvard GSD, ETH, Zaha Office, MIT, and Tsinghua, so on and so forth. So that's the big number. And advisors background, instructors background, actually, mostly from architecture, but still we have a lot computer scientists, engineer, and also some artists, urban planner join us teaching different workshops. And we have professors, we have architects, and also we have some very young generation. I think young generation in the future, we have some like PhD candidates and young assistant professors teaching in this platform. So we have more than 3,200 registers for the Shanghai workshop, as I mentioned, and round by round to more than 1,000, and then lastly it goes to 550. So that's the selecting database of Shanghai workshop. And you can see the data we're collecting because the COVID go to online, so that's a big number. And right now coming back to the offline and online hybrid. So this year the performance is really good, still growing, and that's the applicants background. Most of them have bachelor degree, so that's the profession, mostly architects, but we have still researchers, artists as well. So this different background from different universities, because we are organizers, so mostly big number is Tongji. And last year, the second is UCL, but this year, the second goes to Southeast University and SUT. And also we have UCL, we have HIT and NUS, and so forth. And over the last 1 week, we invited 2 sessions of the PhD consulting, most prominent representative professor, theorist. In the morning session, you each gave 6 lectures. And evening section, we invited Andrew Wheat from GSD, Li Shiqiao from UVA, and Alejandro Zaropolo, who is a former dean of University of Princeton. And also we have Achim Mendes from ICB Stuttgart, and Antonio Picon from Harvard GSD, and Maria Cabo from UCL. So we have achieved, I think, a very important discussion about the theory of future architecture and urban planning, future of AI in design. I think fantastic, blind. I think it's a mind-blowing discussions based on the formal whole week discussion. So we achieve a lot of benefits from that, and also we want to publish all this in our new journal based on these discussions. I think it's leading. It's like a light leading us in the future how to organize our pedagogy and practice. And next week, this is 28 workshops, and based on a different teaching team from all over the world, and also the students as here in this auditorium and outside. We have around 550 students. So, and another very important thing over the last 1 year, I want to talk to you is we start to launch Architecture Journal, Architecture Intelligence Journal, and publish around 40 essays in the past 1 year, and actually including these important professors, including the advisors teaching the workshops. So we not only making things, but we also publish all these achievements on this platform. So that's like a working flow. We're not only making, talking, and discussion and debate, but also publish all these new ideas on this platform. So it's Architecture Intelligence is a journal for the Futures platform. So and today, after accommodation Professor Wu Zhiqiang's opening lecture, we'll have around 40 papers presentation for the Computational Design Robotic Fabrication Conference. So I think it's a big number this year. We have more than 220 submissions, and finally we take around 40. So percentage for that is 20%. I think it's not an easy application process, but most of them from the PhD student, different universities. I think it's like a new platform for us to achieve the new ideas, new concepts of architecture intelligence in our discipline. So this is the performance of the submissions. I just skip it. And also at the very beginning, mostly from China, but right now it's China this year is like 40%. So the other 60% actually from all over the world in the CDRF conference. And you will make the presentation today, the whole day. And also we published these 40 papers over the past 5 years. So every year is a proceeding and we base on different topic. So 2022, the topic is hybrid intelligence. So we published the 40 papers and select 8 of them publishing architecture intelligence. So it's like selecting different hierarchy process, how to achieve the high level knowledge based on this workshop and new idea discussion platform. So these are the keywords for the last 1 year, including artificial intelligence, digital fabrication, virtual reality, computational design, and physical human robotic collaboration, so on and so forth. So the keywords is showing, I think, all the PhD teams, how they teach, how they learn all over the world. So, and then we go to the opening remark. So it's a great honor for us to invite our Vice President, Professor Luo Yunqi. He used to be the former Dean of Design School, but right now play a leadership for international collaboration and the new technology in our university. So let's welcome Professor Luo Yunqi.
Thank you, Professor Yuan. Dear students, professors, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to say something on behalf of Tongji University. I'd like to extend my great appreciation to each of you for joining us at the Architecture Digital Future International Conference and the Summer Workshop. It is an honor to have such great scholars, designers, and students in attendance for this great events. And personally, I feel very happy because this actually is the first offline workshop and a conference after COVID. And I remember that the last year I was also give an address, but at that time it's online and offline. So it's so happy to see so many faces of the students and the professors on site. This is something really great. And Architecture Digital Futures actually is an annual academic gathering hosted by Tongji University. And it includes a diverse range of conferences, work campers, and exhibitions. At its core, this event serves as a platform for exploring the profound transformations occurring in the architecture discipline through the lens of intelligent technology. We are witnessing a fundamental shift in the architect's identity. As an architecture design extends beyond human intelligence and imbalance the symbolic relationship between humans and machines. Simultaneously, our building environment is undergoing remarkable innovation, transitioning from smart environments to intelligent buildings and integrated smaller cities. And our living space have evolved into intelligent ecosystem. Against this backdrop of technological transformation in architecture, this year's Architecture Digital Futures aims to facilitate academic dialogues that delve into the development and applications of intelligent technology in architecture productions, both from theory and a technological perspective. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the architecture scholars, designers, and the students gathered here today for your invaluable contributions. I like to really like to thanks for your contribution, for sharing your time and expertise. and your actively contribution to strengthen our global community during these challenging times. Architecture Digital Future remains committed to the principles of openness and inclusivity, and our doors are open to participants from all corners of the world. It is my hope that throughout this event, teachers, architects, and students alike engage in meaningful conversations, exchange new knowledge, explore fresh ideas, and embrace emerging technologies. May this global digital future serve as a platform for free, equal, open, inclusive, and cutting-edge interactions. Together, let us foster a spirit of collaboration and propose the Architecture Digital Future Summer Events of 2023 to resounding success. Thank you, and let the transformative journey begin and enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Liu Yunqi, our president, gave this opening remark. So thanks a lot for his support over the last few years. So that's a great honor to have him here. And next, we would like to invite our dean, Professor Li Xiangning, to give the second opening remark. Because of the storm, his flight from Beijing to Shanghai is late last night, goes to this morning. So he will actually arrive in around 10 o'clock. But last night, he actually recorded a video and gave us the opening remark through the video. Eh, 你们那个 声音有点
说应该是正常，最大的，他的视频声音有点小。这里要点一下开的。就是最大的声音。
Okay, maybe after his coming this afternoon, maybe give another opening remark in the afternoon session. Next, I would like to invite our chair of architecture department, Rosanna Hu, who is here. Please come in to give us another opening remark, please.
Good morning. It's so nice to see so many of you here. And welcome to Tongji. If you are a student here, of course, it's not the greatest morning. It's raining outside, but you made it here. And if you're from abroad, it looks like we have a lot of foreign friends here. I want to extend our warmest welcome for you to come to Shanghai. So today we're here for Digital Futures 2023, and it's a real honor, I think, for all of us to be gathered here for such an occasion, not just because it's, like everyone said, it's an offline forum after 3 years of COVID, and I think all of you know what we went through in Shanghai, unprecedented like lockdown, and we've all suffered our own like sad stories, but I think it's great for us to have this forum to, even though we are talking about the digital future, we're talking about things that are, non-physical, but I think this physical interaction, to be able to be together in one forum and one room to share and to talk to each other, see each other, I think it's really something we need to be thankful for and to be grateful for. So in the wake of the pandemic, of course, we treasure times like this that we're able to meet. And I think for a vision of what will happen in the future with the digital and also AI revolution, I think, we will rely on this generation of young architects and engineers to come up with the latest kind of innovations and revolutions. And it is here that academics, scholars, and students, practitioners from all over the globe that we can congregate to embark on an educational laboratory that reevaluates the place of digital technology within design, to challenge past systems of knowledge, to cross boundaries that have confined our potentials, and critique the accepted values that shape our culture. And I myself, I think I'm like maybe a grade school student when it comes to digital forums. And I think most of us who were educated in the traditional vein of architecture education need this kind of support as well as re-education and re-evaluation. So this year, our theme is emerging planetarism. And I tried to look it up to see what exactly is planetarism. And I think there are many different interpretations. So I'm really looking forward to see like what will come out of this conference. And this year, of course, I want to reiterate that we are very excited to share with you. We have 3,247 registrations for the workshops, 1,189 applicants, and 689 participants from 385 institutions. This is phenomenal, right? It's not a great big school, and it's even though I would say a pretty young institution, but it's phenomenal that we have this kind of engagement from a global community of architects and designers. And I think it's because we all realize that the time is shifting. We are living in a very unstable world with a lot of issues, environmental issues that we need to address as designers who are engaging in the physical environment. And so I think everyone sees the urgency wherein a platform like this can help us to engage in those issues. So in recent years, digital design and robotic construction have emerged as pivotal frontiers within the realm of built environment research, presenting unparalleled advantages over traditional design methodologies. In the era of Industry 4.0, the construction industry has evolved beyond mere conceptualization, shifting its focus towards the exploration of the, quote, integration of digital design and construction, unquote. This paradigm shift addresses the perennial challenges of low efficiency, numerous errors, and we know it very well because we are probably still participating in that, traditional methodology of design, incomplete information, and difficulties in data retrieval and updating, commonly encountered within the traditional construction sector. The process of digitalization enables a profound transformation within the domains of architectural design and construction, and far-reaching implications for humanity, and I believe also for architecture education. So Tongji University here has long been at the forefront of digital transformation in urban planning, urban design, architecture, landscape, and other disciplines. Our endeavors encompass groundbreaking projects such as smart cities, intelligent design, and advanced construction techniques, yielding remarkable results. And I think we witness to many of those projects living and practicing and teaching and learning here in Shanghai and also in other cities in China. So through our Architectural Digital Futures International Conference and workshops, we aspire to making significant contributions to the global advancement of digital technology. I extend my best wishes to all of you who are here participating in this conference, and I hope that you will be filled with profound insights, meaningful collaborations, and the exploration of boundless possibilities within the digital realm in a physical experience. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming to Shanghai, to Tongji. And I'm confident that you will enjoy this transformative journey with all of us. Thank you.
Thanks for the wonderful opening remarks from Rosanna. I think before our foundation, Professor Wu Zhixiang make the opening lecture, we would like to invite all the participants going outside. We want to take a group picture together. I think it's a remarkable moment for us to have this special moment, to record this special moment. Let's welcome going back. 我们先拍一个，大家到外面先拍个合影，因为我们罗校长和 Rosanna 还有其他的事，我们先做一个合影，然后再回来听吴院士的讲座啊。谢谢啊。
你没有规律有什么有诊断的有那个吗？
原来有预定成没有？他俩。
差不多了。
发现10分钟就念完了。
要求几分钟？15。
然后我决定多点多，把他那3分钟的评论时间给他占了。好走吗？走吧。最厉害的东西。 我记得好像是。
我不感觉到，但是现在变得有很多，我以为那很多挺好做的，我全没有，他以前红到很早，是，因为他一毕业就是一月开始上课，然后他就是搞理工嘛，然后他在深大待一个。然后后面再开始，然后再回来所以他在这边很多，也待了很多，但是他眼睛带着，带着，而且他本来很多，
对未来人居实验室。
未来啊，
以数明绿以
能打电上多少？
以留定型。
一共是给我半小时时间。
对。
对吧？
然后现在是141页，内容您可以快点过。那个智能诊断部分，他们自己做了动画，是自动播放的。
好的，
然后智能推演就是下面部分，就是您要自己翻译。
非常好呀，聪明人，把这个就把这个上面就放。
最开始加了一个数据库的内容，以数明绿的最开始。
就是好吧？你把整个数据他已经在上面调了。
对，从这个就是放了点那个，然后这个开始比率定成就放的诊断的东西，然后那个以留定型就放的就是推演的一些东西，然后最后这个以收尾就是这句话。
非常好，非常好。也理论了，也理论框架了。
压力太大了啊！他本来可以用我跟你证明你自己接受。啊，对，我跟你吴老师放开讲。
我们请大家先就坐啊。So welcome, take a seat, and we'll start the next lecture.那个这边同学，反正还有前面有位置也可以坐吧，只要没有人坐的，大家就找位置坐。Please find a seat and we'll start. 没关系，他们如果愿意坐地上，对。And next, I would like very specially introduce Professor Wu Zhiqiang, who is actually the former dean in our school. And I still remember in 2002, he actually put forward 4 very special research fields in the future and make a prediction that should be extremely important, including the digital design and artificial intelligence. So I think that's around 20 years ago. And at that time, I'm a very young faculty assistant professor here. And I followed this instruction from Professor Wu Zhiqiang and start to make research in digital, I think from 20 years ago. And actually, Professor Wu Zhiqiang used to got his PhD in Germany and working and teaching in Germany for around 8 years. And afterwards, he coming back to become our dean and become our deputy president of the university, and right now the condition 中国工程院院士 and also as well as 德国工程院和这个瑞典皇家工程院的院士啊。Actually, he play a very important leading roles around the world, specialized in the planning intelligence, urban planning intelligence. Actually, he is one of the first professors around the world to implement artificial intelligence in urban planning. His team actually achieved a lot of very special research results over the past few years, including they have 2 journals, 规划, which is in Chinese. 规划 means urban planning. He named his journal in the Chinese name, 规划. I think that's a very special journal, make research in the artificial intelligence in urban planning over the world. And actually, he guiding us, the whole school, over the past dozens of years in this special discipline. So today, he will make a speech on the 数字赋能的城市未来. That's a special moment for him coming. Welcome, Professor Wu Zhiqiang, please.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a great honor for me, 20 years later, come back to this stage to talk about what we do in urban planning. Actually, for me, it's really also the challenge, not like the young generation. It's much easier to merge in this digital time. And for me, it's really, I think, the future is in these lines in the digital world. So I do just today present what we do, our team, in the last 3 years during the COVID. So we stayed home, but we still online. We don't stop to do something new. Today is the 13th the workshops. So I see really the progress, also the big events, global events already. And I'm very proud of this digital future platform. And for me, it's also a great honor to come back to this platform. Would like to say the digital intelligent empowering the urban future. Thank you. It's very important actually for me, for the urban planner, it's really to know the urban planning and according to laws. So I always lead to first work is to find the laws under the movement, under the flows of the urban space. So really very important is we're gathering through the last decade, 2 decades. We're gathering already over 13,000 cities in the world. So also last years we finished this 500,000 communities in the world. So it's bigger data can be learned in the world. What's the real the laws under these facilities? I always tell my team very important is these 6 indicators. First is the breadth, and the second is the extents, and the third one is the time span, the length, and also the resolution. Is very important to see exactly what's in the detail, and very important also last to indicate frankly how can you refresh the data for the one community and the one cities. Certainly last is speed. You can read because our data is so big. So in the last beginning, we read the data to call the data from our bank database 1 hour. Now it's really 100 times so fast to read our data from our database. So I just show you. That's the extent. We now covered almost the biggest cities, every cities, to every building in the world. It's the 13,000 cities to every building. This is extends. It's really the 20 years. And certainly we mostly we use data is from the digital from the year to 75 to today to see which the change of every city. And exactly we see that every building. Really, every building is really very important to see different change. It's very important. Certainly, also the reading speed is also very important. We do. It's really very fast. That's the cities we do. Actually, in the last year, we again 10 times fast to use the new technology and the innovation. And from the 2020, we still 70 sects. And now we only the 11 sects to read the older data core from the our database. This is very important basics. How can real learn a lot of things? And the second is we also very important is the cities. Yeah, the do our the planning. We according to what we found the laws is also very important. I will in this year I will publish a book, City Laws. So found the last session what I say totally over 230 laws can found from this big data. And according to these laws, we do a lot of the finding a lot of new laws. It's really very good to see what's the new development of in the world. And also do a lot of new things in the last 2-3 years. We actually the data actually from beginning so from the country we now we to every city, every square kilometers to see the carbon emission. And the second, the third, and very important is we also do the frequencies much faster and to the evaluation of the whole China and to see the carbon emission, exactly also the carbon balance to see exactly which square kilometer and what's the exactly to see the carbon emission balance and to learn why it's the reason under this carbon emission. And through this carbon emission, you can see difference the laws in the different cities. And through this balance, carbon emission and the carbon sink, and you can see the different economics relevance. And you can see that every city is really exactly, and that's the way do the 700 the cities to the according their performance in the different regions in the Africa, in Asia, in Europe, and the different cities. You can see why they do the difference. This is also we publish now every year for these 700, and in this year we will go to more cities to see the exactly. That's we published 2020, 700 cities, and to see exactly the change. And the second, the fifth, we also do by the invitation to evaluation, what's the efficiency of the so-called free zone, free trade zone in China. We do a lot of the evaluation through this efficiency of the port of these free trade zones in China. That's what we do there for the water quality. Quality in the last years, we see the different water fall in China. You can see the predict very clearly the 800 millimeter water fall is really changing very fast in the China. You can see also we can predict in the 2023, 53, where we go to the totally to the Huanghe River, not in Yangtze River. So the North China will be much more water fallen. And through this prediction on the learning of the law, and we do much more security, resilience for every city. What will happen in the big cities in the Huanghe River, not the Yangtze River. So it's the bigger workers to find the difference, the changing of in China, and also see the where is the lake of the water, especially the quality of water. Where is the bigger flow in the danger? So it's really do a lot of the challenge. Also do the balance between the use water and also the water And that's to the every city, what we get the balance of the cities, for the water balance. This is we also published in the different journals. That's for the water security. That's one, and certainly in China, it's the balance is also in the history, in the civilization. It's very important to exactly to know that's the small dimension. I say the exactly in the city before we do the totally micro scale. Now it's the micro to the different small ports, where it's the biggest city floor, and see exactly what we should do for the every city. That's the we do for the city. The third last one we would do also not only know the floor, we also according to floor to do our much more the prediction, and also to learn the design from the last in the history. That's we do a lot of things to see what way Shanghai will changing their transformation of the innovation and also the industry space layout in Shanghai. This is we do a lot of learning in Shanghai in the history, which different industry in Shanghai that's we do. It also learn the different sections of the different industry, why they are together, why they are not together. So this is learn a lot of the relationship between the cities, industry, urban industry. And we also do a lot of the why the reason, especially the people, what they the difference of the city, to see the difference, the people, and the leading the talent was they living in Shanghai. And it's also for example the deans of the school, what they living in Shanghai. It's also that you can see the relationships. Also, we predict the booming. What's the Shanghai in the history? Why they booming? And we learn a lot of big cities. Actually, in big cities, Paris, New York, Shanghai, London, you can see every 10 years, they change the different paths. They are booming. Especially always, you remember in these years, always the 10 years, these booming cities, through the artificial intelligence to learn the laws, and we see what's the reason to influence the booming areas. And so we predicted the Shenzhen in the coming years, what will happen in which area in Shenzhen will be booming areas. We say these booming areas you can see exactly what will happen. What's the reason of the booming, influence the booming. And that's also the predictor of change of the price and of the rent, and also the immobility. And certainly we can, because we know exactly the impact, so we can also change the planning, what we can change it. For the greening, we do much more for the carbon nutrition. So we do much more in our platform, can see what will happen if we do this in 20 years, in 15 years, in 10 years, what will be changed the balance. That's we do much more in this direction, and also see exactly which blocks will be due. And for the balance of the different functions is the most key important element actually to keep the balance of the development of the city. That's for the Xiamen. We do exactly to learn the difference, the subway stations, and we do learn the over 200 substations, different functions combination in the world, and we see if the computer come together with what they will learn and come to the results after they learn over 200 rail station, also the subway stations. That's what we do. Actually, now it's a much more small elements, not only the building, it's the space elements, what they can do. And that's what we do for the year, sect over 6 stations, the subway stations, to do collection, what the relationship close the different rail stations. And the security certainly is very important, especially that we do much more for the COVID, what we should be to protect our people. And that we see the young children and the older people, what their activity in the city, and to see if what we, the spirit of the COVID in the cities. So we do a lot of for the young people, for the old society, and what will the same the treatment against this COVID. That's what we do. It's for Shanghai, and certainly we very important is for the planning design itself. We let the machine learn a lot of the design in the different the people. They use my design in the last 30 years, over 200 plans. They learn a lot, and then to make a digital professor to do the planning. They learn it's over the 200 planners. So that's the machine now do, and this is much fast, and this is the platform we say the Transo, and then we use a lot of different methodology to serve the design. It's not in power. It's not to say what let the machine do the planning. Actually, let the machine do it, and we see what will happens if we don't intervention. That's actually is much more important. I think to the close word, I say something. The first, I think it's very important today. We not only have the real world, we have a digital world. There's not only that's a part, digital world and the real world. That's the first, very important. I think this is also the difference from the 20 years ago. The second one important, I think it's very important, is that we have not only the digital world to reflect the real world. We can also use the metaverse, meta city, meta architecture to already enjoy the creation of meta worlds. This is also the totally new what we don't have in the last decades. We don't have it, and then now we create much more the space for the people, the social participation together to create metaverse plus this real world. That's the second one, the very important. Third one, I think very important is the not only the architecture, also the people. If we publish this Transo platform for the people normally the not in our profession can also participate our design. The third one, it's very important. The profession is not totally closed in the so-called architecture or urban planning. The people can use these tools, also participate our design. But we don't say the people with our profession architecture lost our architecture, but they can together, working together. The third one is very important. I think today we're living the different things. One is the real world, is the digital world. Another is we also not only design the architecture just as the end product. It's we create the last one. It's very important. I think it's a really big challenges. We create a space for the people. The space is not the end product. Like in the past, we building this building for the people, they use it. The building itself can be learning. That's the new era. The building, we design a life. The life will be born after we give to the final use. And the building will be learning with the final use together to start a new sphere. This is much, much complicated to design a life. It's not design end of life. That's actually the biggest challenge for us. So it's also the biggest opportunity, not only design the physical, it's begin a life. That is we can see really a new time. Thank you very much.
Professor Wu Zhiqiang put forward, form follows data flow, and form follows the laws of the city. I think it's totally based on the computer science and data science in the future. And it's kind of a visualization, a visibility of the mobility of urban future, actually reframing our urban planning discipline, and also influence a lot how, for us to understanding the urban form and understanding the laws in the urban planning and the prediction how we can make the planning in the future. So thanks a lot for Professor Wu Zhiqiang's lecture and opening remark. So in the next session, we would like to introduce actually all the sessions as parallel, putting in 4 different spaces, and 3 of them located in the building D, the other side of this building. And please follow the registration guidelines, everyone you have in the back. And looking forward to meet you coming back to this room 2:30. We'll have a Digital Future Award ceremony. We have different Digital Future Young and Digital Future Coding Award, and also Digital Future Matthias Prize. And we will announce the new fellows. We have 2 new fellows of Digital Future in this year, selected by the committee of Digital Future academic committee and the fellows. So please coming back 2:30. And right now, that's all moving to different lecture rooms to present your papers. So thanks a lot for Professor Wu Zhiqiang. Thanks a lot to Professor Li Zhenyu. Thanks a lot to our Vice President Luo Yongqi, and also our special guests. Thanks for coming. This is the opening event. Okay, thank you. See you soon. Yes,
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the CDRF, the section 1A. I think we should start.
Just 1 second. For me, it says you can't start your video because the host has stopped it. So I can't start my video.
Okay.
So just wanted to notify you that Professor Shaheen Vasir and I will be presenting together. We're the fourth paper.
Okay. Okay. So I believe that, let me see. Because we will have the technical assistant here. So
We could start and I can just turn it on. I mean, I will turn it on as soon as I'm able to.
okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
So hi everyone, welcome to the section 1A, and I'm Kurt. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Kansas, and it's my pleasure to be chairing this section. So today we will have 5 presentations, and then first is auxiliary grammars, an application of shape grammar to generate auxiliary material, metamaterial geometries for fabricating sustainable panels by Simin Nasiri. So I would hand and presented by Simin Nasiri. So I would hand this floor to Simin. So please, and you will have 12 minutes to present, and we will have 3 minutes to have the discussion and Q&A, right?
Sure. Thank you, Kurt. Hi, everyone. So I am going to share my screen. So as Kurt mentioned, my paper is called Auxiliary Grammars, an application of shape grammar using shape machine to generate auxiliary materials. And I'm Simin Nasiri. So I will start by introducing auxiliary materials. What are auxiliary materials? So basically, they have a peculiar, mechanical behavior that kind of differentiate auxiliary materials from other sort of materials. That is the negative Poisson ratio. And what is negative Poisson ratio is that, it basically what it causes is that when we stretch, as you can see in the left side of the picture, when we stretch, a typical material, it will, shrink down in, laterally, and then when we compress it, then it will stretch laterally. But in auxiliary materials, it doesn't work that way. So when we stretch it in, let's say, this direction, then it will stretch also laterally, which is kind of not a typical sort of behavior. And that is due to negative Poisson ratio. And what is Poisson ratio? It's basically a dimensionless constant that depends on the direction of an applied load, which is which varies from -1 to -1 to +1. The characteristics of an auxiliary material is that it is more shear resistant, and also it is more fracture resistant, and it also has a better absorption acoustic wise, and also energy, and also it is more permeable. And it also has a better synclastic behavior, which means that it can form in a dome shape. Also, it has a better shape memory, which means that when we change the shape of this material, it has a memory of getting back to the initial phase. But what I'm going to do here in this in this research paper is that to produce these sort of materials and find an efficient way to generate these geometries. So basically, what is really important for auxiliary materials is their geometry to be able to, work in that behavior that we described earlier. What I have used in this research is shape grammars, and I've used a specific machine called shape machine to produce these geometries. So for shape machine, we have basically some identity rules that I'll describe later. And there are three different and main rules. The first one is called isometry, that it finds the exact shape as well as the rotated and reflected version. So what exactly is going to happen here is that with shape grammars, we are talking really in terms of shapes. We are not programming. We are not talking with symbols. We are literally talking with shapes. And we find the shape. We find it's the related shapes to that with these rules that I'm going to describe. And what are the benefits of shape grammars is that it is the language of real shape, which is more understandable and also more creative for many people, because programming is not, as we know, easy for everyone. Also, with shape grammars, and using shape machine, we can find different levels and stages of these shapes. Because let's say we decide to go with a type of shape, and then when we change it, let's say in stage 1, then we don't really know what exactly will happen in, let's say, stage 3 or 4 of that. But with shape machine, as we will see later, we can find patterns in different stages, and we will not lose many patterns. Also, with that shape machine giving us the history, we can see that in some stages, let's say, we won't have shape, we won't have auxiliary behavior because of the type of shape that we have received, but we will have auxiliary behavior, let's say in stage 4 or 5 of that grammar. We will see all that later. So the rules here are, the first one is isometry. That with isometry, we will have a shape, as we can see in the top of this picture. So we have this shape A, and then we will find shape A really in shape C. So it really finds the exact shape as well as the rotated and reflected versions. With similarity, which is the bottom left, we will find the exact shape, the shape A, let's say, in this image. And then it's rotated, reflected, and even scaled versions of this shape, as we can see the triangle here. And with affinity, we will find that affinity is the bottom right picture. That we will find, let's say, this angle here with its rotated, reflected, and even distorted angles of it in every sort of shape. So what we have here in this slide is shape machine, and the as it's called draw script. So we have this left-hand side and right-hand side that with the left-hand side we have the first picture or first shape that we draw, and then we define the rule for that. But if you get this, then give me this right-hand side. So basically what happens in shape grammar and basically this shape machine is that we have left-hand side and right-hand side shapes that, we give the left-hand side and then we get the right-hand side from the rules. So here is the tessellation that I created, with with this, this draw script here. Which basically, what you see here is the history of, shape machine creating, the first picture, first image, and then second, and, as you can see at the end of that. And then again, here you can see the left-hand side and right-hand side in a close-up that, we give the square, and then we get, this shape here, and then it produces the, this bottom right picture. And then I also told it that reduce these shape to, only one line or one rectangle. And then it gave me this shape here. And this is a auxilic, form that, when we have it as a material format, it behaves auxilically. So then I, tweaked it into a, let's say, more complex shape, which is the rotating squares, even though it is still very simple, but it has, very specific and kind of complicated behavior. So in the left side, we are seeing the, bottom of formation of this, a rotating square, and then the right side, we see how it works auxilically. And then here, Lim has analyzed their, the behavior of this auxilic, form of 4 different shapes. One of them is the rotating squares, and then the other one is the anti-tetrachiral, and then missing ribs, and tilted swastika, as they call it. So, but the all of them has this, this similar behavior of, rotating from let's say top. We have this clockwise rotation, and then the bottom right is counterclockwise, and then the bottom left is clockwise, and then the top left is counterclockwise. So we call it, positive, negative, positive, negative. And then realize that, so this behavior is, how an auxilic material can behave. And when we have patterns of, let's say, 4 shapes, 4 similar shapes, rotating in positive, negative, and positive, negative, it gives us this auxilic behavior. So we used this rule and used shape machine to produce even more complicated shapes. Let's say this, star shape auxilic pattern that, as you can see, when we shrink it, it can completely, close, and then when we stretch it, it stretches like below. And then this is the last stage that I created, this pattern out of the same tessellation that I showed in previous slides. So this is how we used shape grammar and shape machine to produce, complex, patterns of auxilic materials with a very simple rule, with very simple, and very efficient way, because this can be very, time consuming. Finding a pattern, using it and in a, let's say, trial and error way of, seeing if it behaves auxilically or not. But in this way, we could find at least 3 different patterns that works perfectly auxilic. Thank you much, and I would be happy to hear if you have any questions.
Thank you, Siming. I think we open to the questions. Anyone has question for Siming?
Should I stop sharing, Kurt?
Anyone? Okay. Okay. Maybe I have one for you, Siming. It's good to see that shape grammars, this legacy is extended, and also the ice ray tessellation, the very classic example from shape grammar, have the new life that to be used in finding this kind of a auxilic pattern. And I think you bring the very good, very new things to the table for the shape grammarians. So I have a question for you that I think that the process is impressive and you showed how easy that shape grammars can help you to generate a pattern. And I'm curious that in the future research, what do you think to generate that kind of a new Ozadic pattern that even not existing before by using this methodology? Can you talk about this?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Thank you, Kurt. Yeah, I'm really happy, that I could learn, from you, Thomas, and as you said, shape grammarians, and I'm also very kind of hopeful for the future of it. So with this, rule that I could learn from, let's say, having this 4, let's say, shapes, similar or the same shapes that work in or turns in the pattern that I mentioned, positive, negative. I think what I'm going to try is that I'm going to try different sort of shapes that, as you said, does even they do not exist currently, and seeing those patterns with shape grammar and shape machine, how they will combine and what will they give me in terms of different sort of patterns, and then seeing if that rotation works in an auxiliary way. I think that as long as they are simple, and as long as they are not, the hinges work well, they should work in an auxiliary way. But my concern is that when we have let's say patterns that they intersect or intersect each other, how would that behave? Which which I think with shape grammar and shape machine, that is also not hard to tweak and resolve that issue. So I think as long as we have those 4 shapes with the mentioned pattern of turns, that should work in an auxiliary way.
I see. Thank you for the very comprehensive answer, and it's still again very good to see shape computation has a very new application in especially in fabrication, and I'm personally very keen to see the real fabricated pieces, and if we can apply it to the architecture panel, that'd be great, and to verify that this idea, see how this technology can help architecture in performance. Okay, anyone has other questions? Okay, if there's any question, or if you have a question, more question later for Simin, you can probably contact Simin later. She's from Georgia Tech. Okay, let's move on. And I just saw that the second presenter, they need to delay. Thank you, Simin, to their presentation. So should we shift to the third one first? So the next presentation, the article title is 3D CP for complex sites, robotic fabrication of custom fit slabs in irregular pontoons by Joa Ribeiro and sorry, I have a note. By Joa Ribeiro, Joa Silva, Antonio Moraes, Bruno Figueiredo, and Paulo Cruz. And the article will be presented by Bruno Figueiredo. That will be a pre-recorded video. So could you please play the video? Hello? How and Henning Do, are you here in this meeting room? That could you please play the video of the third presentation? Okay, I don't have the, sorry, Bruno, I don't have the video. I was told that the technical staff will play the video. And should we just move to the next one? While we are waiting for the video. I don't think so. Maybe you can send me the video and let's see if I can play from my laptop. You can send it to my email. Okay, while we are processing this presentation, this video, the fourth presentation, the presenter Bayana Bogosian, are you ready to present? Or maybe we can shift to the fourth one first.
Sure, we'll be happy to. I'm here with my colleague, Professor Shaheen Wasiya.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
can you turn on your camera as well?
I can't, it's not allowing me. I'm gonna try again, but
Okay. Give us a moment.
actually, maybe. Oh, yes.
Okay, wonderful. So I'll be sharing my screen and controlling the presentation.
Thank you so much. So while we are processing the third presentation, let me introduce the fourth article. That is Performance-Driven VR Learning for Robotics by Shaheen Basai and Bayana Bogosian and Eric Peterson. The presenter will be Bayana Bogosian. Please go ahead.
Okay.
So I'm co-presenting with Professor Shaheen Vaseev, who will begin this presentation. We're very honored to be here. Thank you for having us on this panel.
Yes, the same here. Thank you for allowing us to present our project. So maybe we can start with the next slide.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so our talk is about our concerns with the robotics, or actually our excitement about the robotics in architecture, engineering, and construction. I'd like to start with some of the challenges that we face in the society and how robotic construction can mitigate those challenges. Transforming construction, building faster, better, cheaper, and dramatically reduce environmental impact is becoming a global priority. But the construction industry isn't equipped to meet the critical needs. Although tools have improved, most of our buildings and infrastructure are built by hand on site using centuries-old materials and techniques. U.S. construction labor productivity is lower than what it was in 1968. So these are some of the, I mean, you just looked at some of the statistics about, you know, making a case for robotic constructions. For example, like we will have like about 1 million shortage, 1 million workers short in the next decades. Next, please. So it seems that growing the robotic construction industry is a natural response. It has several benefits. It can reduce construction time by 50%, lower construction costs, improve energy and performance of the building, and it also can simplify the cost and the process of contracting. Next, please. So to basically look at some of these numbers, which we have supported in our paper, it's the market for manufactured construction and robotic construction could reach 260 billion over the next 10 years, saving 22 billion over in a year in costs. And workers who do this have to be prepared with the skills to compete in the automated industry, and the opportunities has to be extended for them. Next, please. Oh, actually, no, before, sorry. So, however, meeting the challenges challenges of scaling up the robotic construction is immense. And we also need an army of workers that have these new skills, and then they're prepared to fit the new roles. Next, please. So the question is that how do we face this challenge? How do we train the students today so they are future professionals for prepared with robotic required skills? So currently there are two main approaches for robotic training. One is apprenticeship model that focuses on the job and on-site training. This has proven to be very costly and sometimes risky. Next, please. Online training is another format that has been basically used, but it's mainly focused on simulation physics. Both of these approaches are good, but they don't address the personal need and the specific abilities and diverse backgrounds of the learners. So next, please. So our team has been focused on how to address these challenges with an eye on what the advanced technologies can do for us. Next, please. So we've been thinking of the affordances of educational technologies. Technologies like AI, VR, AR are transforming education. For example, adaptable learning systems are enabling us to actually provide really responsive educational environment for students that allows the students to kind of get feedback at the right time during their training, and basically the system will work with them by providing feedback. So another affordance of the new technology is basically the capacity to collect big amount of data from the learners using the head-mounted devices for both in AR environment and VR environment. And also the ability to analyze massive performance data. This is another like gift to the education, to the educational community. And also the possibility, and actually it's being done in some areas, of including biometric and interaction data in order to basically estimate what the student performance is, and then design the curriculum or dispense the curriculum according to that. Next slide, please.
Right. So our project was funded by 2 National Science Foundation grants. So this is specific to United States. And the first grant focused on impact of AI and future of AEC job, whereas the second grant, which is still ongoing and the work presented in this paper will entail, focused on creating intelligent immersive environment for learning robotics. In order to conduct this research, in the past 4 years, we began an extensive research on the industry and learners' needs, and we delve into existing training curriculum to craft a sequence suitable for gamification. We studied existing learning theories that might be suitable for the options that we were accounting for in terms of personalization, and began compiling these approaches in a virtual reality environment, which allowed us to incorporate various machine learning and natural language processing algorithms to begin to assess learners' data and provide personalized learning. And all of this had to be extensively user tested, and this cycle is ongoing and is constantly being evolved and updated. Now, focusing on our background research, we interviewed 18 AEC industry experts. These interviews were leaders in automation and robotics, owners and employers, and focusing on skill requirements and workflows and learning performances. And some of the findings here are highlighted. We go back to the first code here, which is user robots. For this specific user who was a system integrator, was very much getting rid of the 3Ds, which in this case was summarized as the dull, dangerous, and dirty tasks. And I think this is an interesting way to think about the argument or counter argument for automation, which is often about future of jobs and how many people are going to be out of jobs. So we really start to really understand the hardships and how might we start to think about maybe future of this training as maybe similar to a Swiss Army knife, as something that could be adaptive and hybrid. So for us, this findings were quite critical. But also, in order for us to really begin a conversation, we created an industry summit where you'll find here, for instance, Professor Philip Yuan here, who came to Miami to join the summit, along with other industry and profession leaders, such as Professor Phil Bernstein, or representatives from Branch Technology and Perkins and Will. So this summit was also attended by 60 leading AEC firms and 2 of nation's largest housing development. It was very interesting for us to really build on the interview questions and begin to think about how might we approach a curriculum design that would allow us to then account for flexibility, scalability, and modularity. So in this case, we began by looking at existing in-person and online robotics training curricula, such as looking at what KUKA College is providing, or what Universal Robots Academy is providing, or what ABB University is providing, and start to look at also data collected from our interviews and create a curriculum which was very much broken down in the 6 modules that you see here. And it focused on introductory courses that were very much about safety and looking at the anatomy, and more advanced courses that focused on more complex topics such as programming. And each module had a brief instruction and then series of tasks that then follow the lesson. Now, going back to what was mentioned earlier about learning theory, this work has very much built on this learning theory called adaptive learning system, or ALS, which adjusts learning content based on learners' profiles, performance, and human factors. And ALS can monitor performance and provide personalized instructions by adapting content, tasks, and feedback. So building on the established research, and with our findings, we created this model, which was then adapted to virtual reality. So this model, which is made out of learner model, it collects personal characteristics and individual differences of learners to support decision makings. It's also consists of a domain model, which includes curriculum, learning objectives, and content tailored to meet the needs of the AEC industry. It also has an arm, which is industrial model. Instructional model, it provides instructions based on the domain and learner model, determining when and how adaptation should occur. And then an adaptive engine, which is at the core of this model, and it correlates data from each of these modules and tracks learner interaction and measure learning outcomes. And of course, this is an evolving model because learning from one feeds into the other. Now, what we are going to present here is our first virtual reality prototype. Hope you could see this. All right, I'm going to talk over this. So we created an environment called Robotics Academy, which allows you to interact with a dashboard. Here you're presented with your curriculum. So for instance, here's an instance of a pick and place model. So you're always given a series of instructions. You're able to look at your performance. For instance, you can activate or deactivate based on concerns of security you might have. Here we're looking at an instruction that's delivered via video. So multimedia aspect is really important for us. So although we're providing this content in virtual reality, however, there's component that we could borrow from what is standard in the industry. So here we're looking at a learner understanding different axes. And here you're looking at a ghosted profile of a robot that the learner is trying to match. So the interface here is matching what a teach pendant would have. And of course, it's adapted for it to be more suitable for a virtual reality. And at the end, you're able to look at your data and see your progress over time, etc. So this prototype was our initial starting point, and this is constantly evolving. We are working on curriculum testing with a control group and an experimental group. This is an extensive project over 3 years, which entails a lot of user testing. And this is an instance from last week where we were doing our assessment with series of students. And you see the students that are working with the physical robots and then the virtual reality. And we're really trying to think about how curriculum could be adapted to allow engagement. And this is our interdisciplinary team made out of architects, media designers, and computer scientists, AI and natural language processing experts, etc. And we really truly believe that the only way that this type of research could be done is through interdisciplinary collaboration and opening conversations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This is a very impressive work. I believe that there'll be some questions. Anyone wants to ask the questions? Okay. Actually, I have a question, very quick one. And I'm very naive on the robotics, first of all, so I have to admit that, but I saw a lot of opportunities of this kind of system. When you present this work, it reminds me that a sentence like a robot trained the robots. So you use a robot system to train people how to use a robot, especially when you involve the machine learning and natural language processing. I think that's a very comprehensive learning environment. It reminds me that when I was using the robot before, there was a lot of hiccups around. And so I'm glad to see that kind of system can help everyone to adapt to to the new system. So this question is that when I saw this kind of VR environment, I feel that's so real. And the next question is that, is it possible that in the future, this kind of VR system can be like augmented reality to really incorporate with the real robots to do, for example, that's augmented reality, the screen in front of you, and you are really reacting to interacting with the real robot arms? Do you have any kind of plan, or if this is a naive question, please correct me.
No, absolutely. This is the correct question. And this is a question that we're thinking about and constantly also experimenting. So this effort, as you can imagine, is a larger effort, and we didn't show also the augmented reality aspect of the research that's ongoing. So our initial testing, we were doing parallel testing between augmented reality and virtual reality. And what we really found was that virtual reality is better for introductory courses, as they entail a lot of safety concerns. So you're able to really create embodiment and audio-visual immersion. So that's better for introductory courses. But also what's great about virtual reality is the fact that you don't need to necessarily rely on the physical robot, right? Because it could be costly, it could be dangerous. Currently, we have another extension of this grant, which is a new grant that we're mainly focusing on augmented reality. So if you do look at, for instance, what Microsoft and also Apple's and other companies that are releasing augmented reality, a very big component of that is interfacing with robots. So that's definitely the way forward, especially we completely understand that you do need the hybrid aspect, which is the virtual and the physical. So that's where augmented reality is fantastic. Mm-hmm. This is just kind of a slice that we are showing part of our research, but there's definitely value in isolating and understanding affordances of each media.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Very comprehensive answer. I'm keen to see the application, the future application, and especially I can imagine how it can be really helpful in academic setting too, that when the school have a very limited budget to persuade that many robots for students, they still can get interacted with this kind of system. Thank you so much. So I think we should move on. Any other questions for Shaheen and Bayana? Okay, if no, let's move on. And sorry for the hiccup for the presentation. We should move to, since the Wei just told me that they are ready to present. So we move back to the second presentation. A parametric wave joint for robotic fabrication of digital stereotomy by Wei Ye, Inzhou Gao, and Wei Guo Su. And it will be presented by Wei Ye.
Thank you so much.
Okay. No. Go ahead, please.
Mm-hmm. Can you see my screen? Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Wei. I'm terribly sorry for my delay. And this is my second time presenting my work at CDRF conference and the third year of joining Digital Futures, a series of events. And I really appreciate you for allowing me to present my work here. This year, we want to present a parametric wave joint for robotic fabrication of digital stereotomy. My co-authors are Gao Yingzhou and Professor Xu Weiguo. This year, our research focused on an ancient building material stones. Stereotomy, an ancient buildings construction technique, has been employed for centuries, relying mainly on manual process prior to emergence of computer technology. However, this traditional material has high carbon emissions, high waste, and high labor in mining and processing. It was then gradually replaced by construction materials. Digital stereotomy has evolved from traditional stereotomy, which involves the manual measurement and cutting stones blocks, and this has been aided by the advancement of digital technology in recent years. These are the examples of using digital stereotomy techniques to process the stones so as to create a new generation of stone buildings. While previous studies have investigated various aspects of digital stereotomy, there are still challenges that need to be addressed to enable the practical application of these techniques in outdoor environments. Modular joints are designed for robotic assembly are necessary, and the cutting process must be efficient and minimize material waste. There have been many previous studies on the modular joints of digital stereotomy. This paper presents a literature review of the research of modular joints, categorizing joints forms into two main groups, 2D joints and 3D joints. The 2D joints can be further subdivided based on their section lines of curves and polylines, where the authors use curves to form interlocking joints and grooves. However, the 2D joints cannot provide sufficient sliding resistance for building lateral forces in multiple directions. On the other hand, 3D joints, due to their different direction lines in each section, appear to resist sliding resistance in cross-section directions. The 2D joints can all be cut by a wire saw, but cannot provide sufficient sliding resistance. The 3D multi-groove joints provide enough sliding resistance, but cannot be cut by a wire saw. The 3D wave joints can be cut. The 3D wave joints can be cut by a wire saw, but the cross-section contains many weak parts that are easy to damage. So this paper seeks to explore how a complex joint can be designed to combine sliding resistance on all sides, providing motion flexibility for easy assembly, and also have wire saw cutting capabilities. For a groove joint with only one groove, movement is possible along the direction of the groove. The Vettel joints can only move along directions of their groove. While when the successive contact surfaces of the groove form right angles 2 by 2, the parts can move along the groove and in the direction perpendicular to the groove. When successive contact surfaces of the groove form obtuse angles by 2 by 2, the parts can move along the angles of the combined, the range of the combined angles. The described movement along the inclined contact surfaces is discussed as motion space. And see the right upper part of 3 pictures. The motion space of the joints allowed misalignment with a certain angle and distance. However, the motion space is also making the assembly of the joint easily disintegrate. In order to guarantee both motion space and interlocking, it's necessary to combine the 2 types of joints. The motion space is essential for the assembly process, but has a negative impact on stability. To counteract this, the lower part of the groove joint is set as inclined surfaces and the upper part as parallel surfaces. So the inclined surfaces are altered to smooth curved surfaces that connect to the parallel space surfaces. Such a junction allows for alignment errors during installation, as the 2 blocks can be slid into the correct installation position through the motion space. But after installation, the parallel spaces prevent this assembly. This paper defines this type of joint to be a U-type of joint. The U-type of joints with grooves in only one direction can be cut by a wire saw, but such joints have the least resistance to displacement in the extended groove direction. So this shape of joints, if we wanted to have both sides of resistance, sliding resistance, we want 2 grooves to perpendicular to each other and intersect. But if we do this, it cannot be cut only by wire saw. It can only be cut by milling. So Lastly, we choose to vertically intersect a V-shaped joint with a U-shaped joint, and with the V-shaped joint providing one side of sliding resistance, while the U-shaped joints prevent displacement from the other side. And for the objective of cutting by wire saw, this paper formed a new wave joint based on the combined joint. In order to automate the standardize the wave joint design process, the edge curve of the generated joints need to be controlled in a parametric way. The design of these joints need to be considered different parameters such as height of the U part and the V part, and the size and curvature of the motion space. The use of the joint also need to compare the performance of joints generated with different control variables for a given identical parameter and find the best solution. So we choose to use formulas to design this joint. The side curve and the middle curve are calculated as the following formula. And the K is the occlusion depth constant, and the A is the occlusion width constant, and B is the constant that controls the height of the V part, and it is added to the calculation of the middle curve. The poly surface of the wave joint is contained by lofting the side curves and the middle curves. By adjusting different parameters, different joint shapes and size can be generated, and the joints generated by adjusting different control. These are the joints generated control the different constants. The method proposed in this paper is a fabrication-oriented design. The reason why robotic arm stone processing is not yet widely used in construction, one is because that robotic arm milling task takes a lot of time and is too inefficient. However, the wire saw cutting is much faster compared to milling. For this reason, it is particularly important to design complex forms for the wire saw cut finish. The design of the wire saw cutting pattern should consider the pattern consists of several ruled surfaces, and that the paths of the ruled surfaces should not be incorrectly damage the parts that do not need to be cut. It's also necessary to consider the shape of the tool head to avoid the wrong collision of the tool head with the object. The wave joint proposed in this paper can be done directly by wire saw cutting, and two parts are all cut by the wire saw with the robotic arm. And this prototype was cut using a KUKA robotic arm with a hot wire tool. A bent column prototype was fabricated and assembled. Future research can experimentally test different parameters of these joints and verify which parameter can generate joint structures with performance that best matches the stone. In this paper, the performance of such joints with different U-shaped opening widths was simulated. Finite element analysis was done with Abacus CAE for two different widths of the wave joint with the same other parameters as shown in the picture. From this simulation, it can be seen that when the U shape is narrower, the stress concentration is mainly located on the side of the U shape, while when the U shape is wider, the stress concentration is mainly located at the top of the shape. And in our continuing work, we have also designed modules where each face is composed of ruled surfaces and contains the joints we have designed. And the cutting path was generated. And we also used robotic arms to cut out this part. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. This is a very interesting study. Anyone has a question for Wei? Anyone? Okay, I actually have a question for you that I think is interesting to use hot wire cutter to generate kind of foam, the kind of shapes, and especially that I don't know, but it requires multiple cuts, right? So you cut once, you cut twice. You probably cannot be cutting once, but I think it's a very smart way to use hot wire cutter. It is very fast and efficient. However, I have a question on this one is that when we use hot wire cutter, it's almost, the material is almost to be limited to the foam only, right? So my question is that, is it possible to use the same methodology and to apply to more materials that, for example, if we want to scale it up to the real building scale, and foam might be not strong enough, and is any plan for or any other ideas for the future applications and how to scale it up?
Thank you for your question. First, I want to say that the reason I do this research is that I went to the Chinese biggest stone manufacturing factory to investigate how the digital technology is used in their nowadays fabrication. And I noticed that they already have some robotic arms, but they still think that human work, manual work is much more efficient than the robotic arm, because they now only use milling with the robotic arm, but with human you can just cut the stones, but if you use robotic arm you can only mill, so it's really inefficient. And they also do some research with the robotic arm with some string saws. So the string saw with the robotic arm can cut the stone, but it should be really strong. It's there are some stone on the string and small stones on the string, and the string will go this way, will just go around and it can cut the stones. But they already have this technique to use this line saw to cut the stones. It's similar to the wire saw, but they now don't have designs because now they have the design that is suitable for milling, but they don't have the design suitable for cutting by this string saw. So that's the reason I want to do this research and to create some design ideas, parametric ideas to help them to use their technique and to fabricate some good products.
Okay, thank you so much. I think this is a very interesting technology, and then it's good to know that they have a string saw to really cut a stone, and probably in the future we really can use the same technique to generate a kind of very complex joint to help a lot in architecture fabrication. All right. Anyone? Any question for Wei? Okay, if not, then let's move to the third presentation. That's a pre-recorded video. And so the technical staff just told me that they can play the video. So the third presentation is 3D CP for complex site robotic fabrication of custom fit slabs in irregular platoons by Joad.
Good afternoon.
Ribeiro, Joao Ribeiro, Joao Silva, Antonio Moraes, Bruno Figueiredo, and Paulo Cruz. Yes, please go ahead to play the video.
I'm here to present 3D CP for complex sites. I am João Silva, and my team is João Ribeiro, Antonio Moraes, Bruno Figueiredo, and Paulo Cruz. We are a research team called Lab 2PT at EAD in Portugal, and I hope you enjoy what we have prepared here to present. Our project is really born from this reality in Portugal. Portugal is a country with a vast seashore, and one of the main strategies to use to manage the sea is the construction of pontoons. Now, there are multiple variations on these, from road-like paved structures to more irregular or sometimes even chaotic arrangements. And they are frequently used for leisure activities, like fishing and sunbathing, even though they were not really built with those uses in mind. And another frequent construction we find are seawalls made with this repetition of concrete blocks. And they could be cubic, they could be in a pyramid shape to more exotic shapes, but unfortunately, they are also notoriously known for not providing the greatest refuge for the local fauna and flora due to their plain, textureless faces. So with this in mind, our project is really about creating the opportunity to facilitate the use of these types of structures by the local population, as well as trying to preserve and enhance the refuge of local species. Now, of course, creating connections between public space and waterfronts is commonplace, because they often result in these really unique and high quality spaces. And there is also fantastic work being done on the fabrication of habitats to improve the aquatic biodiversity, particularly with 3D concrete printing, such as our case. So this work is really about the question, how do you intervene in a site that is characterized by such an irregular and complex geometry without harming the species that have made it their home over the years? So our proposal is meant to be flexible and adaptable, so that it can be applied to a wide range of locations. And essentially, through scanning, we create an exact digital representation of the site, and we manufacture elements that are a perfect fit to the rocky landscape. It's important to notice that this framework is only possible through 3D concrete printing, because it lets us very efficiently produce very high complex and unique geometries. So our approach was to develop a modular system where each piece could be aggregated with its neighbors to create spaces for leisure, for rest, fishing, and other sort of activities. But at the same time, we would pay close attention to how these elements would relate to the local fauna and flora. So taking advantage of the process of 3DCP to create infill solutions that would arrange these empty pockets of space for any species that would want to stay there. So when looking at it from an urban scale, our solution can be used to potentiate a vast offer in terms of public space in these areas, bringing safety and solving problems of accessibility to a type of space that is already extensively used throughout the country. So our methodology is as follows. We scan the site to acquire the geometry of the rocks, in which we will build those custom fit slabs. And then this model is cleaned up and processed so that it can be integrated into a parametric design workflow that can assist architects in creating their own designs. We then turn our focuses into the fabrication of these components, starting from a slicing process that generates the infill to the robotic printing of the modules in concrete. So the testing site we chose is in a city in the north of Portugal called Povo de Varzim. It's one of the biggest pontoons in the north of the country. And it's characterized by having both a paved walkway and a very rocky, irregular, difficult to access half, which is the common place where you can find fishermen. So the first step was to create a digital model of the site. We took around 300 pictures walking around the area of interest and used photogrammetry to construct a mesh from those photographs. And this method is very inexpensive. It provides a very accurate level of detail on the rocks. So we can actually dive deeper a bit into the computational process of the project. We first make a grid of interest, and we optimize the location of this grid. We then create an interlock system for the modules, and we rearrange the subdivision. So I create smaller modules. We then populate those and project it into the mesh. And this will give us a new mesh from which we can extrude our slabs that will fit perfectly on the rocks. So just to give a bit more extra context on this optimization process, it consists of a depth and a slope analysis to find the optimal place to overlay and then subdivide the grid that generates these unique modules. So depth analysis is used to maximize the bottom support, and slope analysis is to guarantee that printability. Now, these two fitness objectives are used to lock and subdivide the area of interest into chunks, which we can then manufacture at our lab. So as a proof of concept, we designed a small platform that would create a balcony for visitors and fishermen. but being restricted production-wise in terms of space and the weight of these final pieces, we focused actually on a smaller part, which we took to production. So essentially, it consists of 6 slabs that individually they solve different functional objectives. Functions like stairs, benches, or platforms are associated with a different infill that creates differently sized pockets for the local fauna. And these are parametrically generated so to always guarantee alignment between each other. But they are common in the sense that they all have the same structure. They have a top part that provides the robustness of the module, a middle part that hosts the cavities for a tensioning system, and that also can reach out to the level that when it finally hits the rocks and finds the support, and finally a bottom part that traces the outline of the rocks where it will stand. So now we can move on to the fabrication of these modules, and this is our setup at the lab arena. It's essentially a mixer to produce the concrete, to produce the mix, a pump and a cooker robot. And we can show you here very quickly that, for everyone you need to wait and prepare the materials, add the water. We then can have them mixed, and finally it starts to be pumped through a hose into an extruder that is connected to the cooker robot and produces the print. Now, one thing to notice is our system doesn't really allow us to stop the extrusion during fabrication. So that's why the geometry needs to be really well considered to be one continuous path from start to end. And one of the biggest challenges we encountered was the very high slope of some of these faces that touch the rocks. And because of this inclination, some critical areas could indeed collapse sometimes during fabrication. So we found that adding sand to the most critical areas helped us overcome this issue, right? So pushing the inclinations way beyond the natural limits of layered concrete. And upon removal, the sand left no trace. So this ended up resulting in a collaborative process between the robot and the technician during the fabrication. And you can see this particularly well in this time lapse. So as the robot prints and we identify the critical areas, we need to keep adding the sand that will let these inclinations not collapse. So finally, we can go to assembly. And assembly, unfortunately, we didn't have the module installed on site on time. So we created this mild cork that mimics the geometry of the rocks where the prototype would be really assembled. And then it was a matter of taking it. Here you can actually see very well the complexity of the geometry on the bottom part that is going to be touching the cork. And here are some details of this contact. These are the tensioning cables that I mentioned before. It's our solution to keep everything pressed together. And here are some finishing pictures of the prototype here at our lab. Thank you very much, and I'm open for the questions now.
Thank you so much. I think this is a very impressive work that see how robotic can help fabricating the artifacts on a very complex site. And so that's open to the questions. Anyone have questions for Juan? Okay. Actually, I saw the paper that the article that you about this research that you did, that you mentioned that the greatest obstacle is to full-scale manufacture this piece because of the weight and also other issues about this kind of technology, and it's hard to subdivide it into smaller components. Can you explain more about these things?
Yeah, hello, absolutely. So I think the easiest strategy would be to build a very robust piece that would be much bigger in size, also to resist to the strength of the sea. But we were very limited in terms of our production capacity and also how you could then transport these pieces to the site and assemble them. So we really had to find a strategy where if you decide to go with prefabrication in modules, those modules, when they are assembled, they need to work together, right? So you have to find a way where they can resist lateral strengths together, and as well find a way that because the biggest challenge was really you have a very difficult geometry to where you want to create this custom fit, right? So you have very complex rocks and you have to create this geometry that will fit perfectly. And you cannot really do this in a big block because the inclinations will be too high for the concrete. And when you're working with layered concrete, usually there is a rule that if you go over 30 or 40%, it will collapse. And creating these subdivisions in an optimal way gave us the opportunity to really divide and conquer, right? So some pieces will be, so you'll divide the inclinations into pieces in a way that if you add the sand, you can overcome these limits. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yeah. I think you give a very good answer to this question. I'm just curious that in the video that you show that in the end, the simulation of the site is by milling. With the milling. So I was thinking that instead of printing, and you said the printing has like a limited angle, so you have to put a sand as a support. But I like this idea very much that the complex geometry and build the platform on top of it. Is it possible to apply the milling technology in the same idea that instead of printing is like a milling, they're very similar, just like you did on the site.
Yeah, the milling was our way to validate our process, because the prototype is actually on the way to the site. We didn't have this ready on time to place it. I think we'll have it very shortly. But we wanted to make sure that we will be able to do this also in the lab, because the lab is really the space where you control everything. So we wanted to make sure that before we could do this in the lab and then move it to the site.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Any questions for Joao?
I'm wondering, I have a question. I'm wondering what are the discrepancies between like the depth analysis and the slope analysis that you guys have done of the site versus like the digital version versus like what the physical actual thing on the site is. And I'm wondering, like, are there other kind of explorations that you guys like went through, such as like 3D scanning or like some kind of like just analog documentation that you guys could cross-reference or like compare between different methods, and how you guys came across to deciding that depth analysis via 2D images is like a correct or like a better way?
Yeah, so this digitalization process, we had this kind of difficult challenge where the place that we were scanning was, first of all, it was difficult to access, and usually there's an issue where water keeps going up and down, right? So you have to find a compromise, right, between accuracy and having a method that where you can capture this big area where we're intervening. And photogrammetry doesn't give you the most accurate result, but it gave us enough in terms of concrete, in terms of concrete printing. So yeah, so if you take a lot of pictures around the site, then you have a lot of different methods to create your mesh. We tested a lot of different ones, and then we compared them with the print, and our difference was in terms of, I think I remember it was 3 centimeters the maximum deviation, right? But this sort of deviation is okay because on the site you can very easily cut the concrete to fit in place.
Okay, just one small question for you again that I captured Alexander's question that when you scan a site, any kind of limitation for the site that this place is good for your technology or this one is not good for your technology? Any kind of limitation for that?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
So I was wondering that when you scan the site, these kind of rocks, is there any limitation for your site that, for example, this place, this part is good for your printing project, and this one is not good for your printing project? Is there any kind of limitation for this thing?
Yes. There's one limitation in terms of the height. So if we have an arrangement of rocks that don't give us enough support, or if the difference between the highest level and the lowest level of support is too high, we have a problem with producing these pieces. So we can work with a range from up until 2.5 meters of the height. But if the pontoon actually has a way bigger difference, we cannot really produce these pieces. But most cases this doesn't happen. So usually when we do our optimization process, we can always guarantee that there is supports in the corners of the modules. So this is the most important part. But I can imagine a case where such thing would be more difficult.
I see. Thank you so much. I think we need to move on. We have one more presentation, and that'll be weaving tectonics algorithmically robotic FRP weaving optimized planar structure by Kelton Boyer Grant, Zoe Singh, and Dingwei Bao, and Xin Yan and Dan Lo. So, and will be presented by Kelton Boyer Grant. All right, are you ready?
Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen?
We can see your face. Oh, okay, it's coming up.
Cool. How's that?
Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you. Can you see it full screen?
Yes, we can see it.
So it's just there you go. Sorry about that. So thanks everyone so much for having me today and giving me the opportunity to present. As mentioned just before, this research is titled Weaving Tectonics, Algorithmically Optimized Robotic FRP Weaving of Large-Scale Planar Forms. And this research was conducted by myself and many others, such as Zhu Yangjing, Dingwei Bao, Xin Yang, and Dan Lo. It's a bit of a collaborative effort from all of us. So the background for this research is really this focus on creating large-scale planar forms. And traditionally, kind of for the last 100 years or so, that's really been reinforced concrete, steel reinforced concrete, which has been used as the composite material for these building components, such as floors, typically, and sometimes walls as well. And this has typically been due to its high durability, low cost, and relative strength. However, as we all know, with climate change and the environmental impact that concrete has, it's really starting to look for alternatives. And one alternative that we're proposing is fiber reinforced polymer, FRP, in a composite material with epoxy resin. And this FRP composite is lighter. It can reduce fabrication times drastically, has increased durability, and has a higher stiffness and strength to weight ratio than reinforced concrete. So there's a real potential here to reproduce the same types of forms, but also have some additional benefits as well. And this paper builds upon research from RMIT University as well as the University of Stuttgart. and it's combining two methodologies from these universities. So the first one, which we can see here, is using a Bezo algorithm and 3D printing, which a Bezo algorithm, if you're not familiar, is a bidirectional evolutionary structural optimization algorithm, which essentially, through the process of or imitation of evolution, it optimizes the structure into the most efficient geometric forms. And in this case, we can see it's producing a tree-like structure. And this example here, Pavilion X form, was from RMIT University, which successfully shows the combination of using this Bezo algorithm to inform the design, and then using the fabrication process of 3D printing to produce this optimized structure, which is quite successful. And from the University of Stuttgart, which I'm sure you're all familiar, the FRP robotic winding, which is used here as well. And they've done that pretty extensively. And it's quite clear to see the advantages of the strengths of using FRP and epoxy as a building material. And so their research pavilion here shows how the FRP lattice shell can create the large spanning bespoke cantilever structures, which reinforces the idea that there is a potential for FRP composite materials to replace steel reinforced concrete. But this research specifically aims to look at combining the MW Bezo algorithm, so that's a multi-weight bidirectional evolutionary structural optimization, as well as using the FRP composite material. And so the previous example from RMIT is limited in the sense that it's mainly vertical forms that can be fabricated. So that would omit geometry such as floors or large cantilevering horizontal spaces. And from the University of Stuttgart, our paper builds upon a more precise and more structurally optimized use case for the FRP reinforcement, which you can see is not as deliberate in this example or some of the other research that they've conducted. And so our methodology for this research is really split into 3 different sections. So the first is being the topological optimization of the planar structure. So this research decided to do a prototype of a tabletop, which spans 1.8 meters and with a 20 mil thickness. And so that structure needed to be optimized, which is the first step from geometry. And then the second step is taking that 3D geometry, which is what's output from the algorithm, into a path planning system, which so then we can fabricate that using a KUKA robot arm. And then the last step is the fabrication itself, which involves a couple of different steps to create the FRP reinforcement and then cast the tabletop. So for the first part, which is the topological optimization of the planar structure, we used the MW Bezo algorithm to generate the 3D geometry, and that informs where the FRP reinforcement comes from. So as I mentioned before, the process for that is it takes the overall geometry, which in our case is a cylinder, and it systematically goes through and from the loading conditions that were applied, so in our case, gravity and torsion, it's able to optimize where the structure needs to be and how thick it needs to be in certain parts. And it takes a process of doing that in order to gather a 3D geometry that is the most structurally efficient. And in our case, using that MW Bezo as opposed to the Bezo algorithm gives a little bit of control back to the designers. And so that was critical for us because it enabled a more aesthetic or critical thinking of what we actually want this piece to look like, this prototype to look like, because it's going to be cast in a clear epoxy, as opposed to using just a Bezo algorithm, which gives no control back to the designers. And so once we get to that process of creating that 3D geometry, we can see here that we're just using FRP fibers. Well, that's only a single string of carbon fiber, and that doesn't equate to what the Bezo algorithm is producing, which is different thicknesses and across the surface. And so then a process here, which was using a script from Grasshopper in order to convert that 3D geometry into a 2D path planning system. And what we did here as well is we tried to imitate where the thicknesses and thinnnesses were of that 3D geometry in order to replicate and make sure that we do have that reinforcement from the Bezo algorithm. So there was a minimum of 2 strokes from the robot path, and then that extended all the way up to 8 strokes. So you can see in part C of that diagram on the screen that the exterior edge, as you can imagine, needed more reinforcement because the loading from gravity and the torsion was more significant, as well as in the center, and it kind of radiates out from there. And then the last final step of this first part was, once we get the pattern for the path planning pattern, we then need to consider a way of some of the constraints, because in digital space, we can just connect the lines together, but in 3D or physical space, there's a process that we need to have anchor points, and we need to be able to precisely connect them together. So another script was developed, which was able to determine the direction of the path, and then it was able to add a circular motion for the robot to be able to navigate the anchors that will then be used for fabrication. And so converting this 2D path that we've now created from the Bezo algorithm, we need a way to structure it for the robot. And similar to that previous project, we're limited by 1 continuous stroke, and that is really due to minimizing the crossing and doubling up of fibers, so that we can get the significant reinforcement that we need in order for the structure to work. And so that was using a depth first search algorithm that was developed. And as you can kind of see from this diagram here, it basically searches for the deepest node and then recurs back on itself in order to, I think here I show that a bit better, in order to find the most efficient path, but also in 1 continuous stroke, so that it's not doubling up where it doesn't need to, and where it needs to add additional reinforcement, it's able to do that in the most efficient way, which then, when we get to fabrication, results in more efficient fabrication because the robot's not having to cut back and forth. And it also means that it's able to minimize the number of times that the robot crosses over already woven fibers, which was another concern for the prototype. Because as you can imagine, it wouldn't really be efficient, or when there's a large buildup of fiber, you don't want the robot having to cross that path again, and that reduces the structural integrity as the fibers start to fray. And so the last part of the experiment was, once we had the path planning from the MW Bezo algorithm output, so we knew what our reinforcement was going to be like. There was lots of testing and prototyping in order to find the right materials to encase the epoxy itself. So when we're casting our FRP reinforcement, so that we could get a nice clean edge and a nice finish, as well as a clear see-through tabletop, which was also critical for our testing. As you can imagine, it could be used for more bespoke or novel ways of fabrication that you just can't get with concrete. As well as you can see in the bottom diagram there, just lots of rigor and testing about how the robot actually interacts with the anchor points and what those actually look like, as well as it being able to navigate what that end effector tip ends up being, has a big determination on the efficiency of the path planning output and the winding, as well as how it will interact with already woven fibers, which, as I mentioned, was a bit of a concern for us. And so here we can start to see a little bit of what our setup was like. So we had the Cooper robot with two to three spools of carbon fiber, depending on which bits were being woven. And then the robot there was just going around the anchor points, which were nailed into a piece of MDF timber, which was then locked into place onto the steel plate so that the robot arm wouldn't knock or misalign any of the FRP reinforcement. And so the outcome that was produced here was, as you can see, a 1.8 meter tabletop with a 20 mil thickness continuously across the tabletop finish with colorless surface all the way through, and then a nice clear beveled edge so that people could use it functionally as well. So it wasn't just a showcase piece. And the reinforcement was quite successful, like it obviously stood up, as we can see here. And it really did enable the tabletop to be as thin as it was. Through the testing, there were some concerns that it may have been too thin and we may need to have increased the thickness, but we were able to get that all working. And the MW Bezier algorithm really enabled us as well to give that bit of control back to us in order to get the outcome that we were, it was maybe more aesthetic and more desirable, as opposed to letting the algorithm just run and produce the geometry. And we can see here some of the finishes and details, just showing that thinness across the tabletop, and then just resting on the legs, which were also FRP woven for a different adjacent research project. And so from the center points where the tabletop reaches the legs, it's about 800 mil. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is very cool study. Any questions for Kelvin? Oh, actually, I have one for you that I think that when you demo the path that you are looking for, I think that one is really cool. And are you using any? So you said you developed the algorithm to find a path that's searching the deepest node or something like that. Can you explain more about this part?
I can do my best. I actually didn't do this part. That was Dan Lowe. He was a bit of a whiz with the old algorithms, but from my understanding, essentially we got the path from the Bezier algorithm. So we had the 2D path, which I created using a script from a Voronoi pattern to produce the similar 3D geometry. And then once we had the two curves connecting, we were able to get the points that intersected those. And then the algorithm that Dan developed essentially looked through all, so we started from the center point and it looked through all of those points, but systematically until it reached the furthest point that it could go without touching any other of those points and being able to recur back to the center point, to the start point. So for example, like if it had a tree, basically like a tree branch, and then it found that it could get to the end, but it couldn't get back, then that wasn't the most efficient because we'd need the robot path to start and end in the same place in order to like tile the pieces of FRP together. That's kind of my best understanding. Hope that explains.
Thank you so much. This algorithm reminds me of the story of the graph theory. That is a graph that the salesman go through these kind of 7 islands without crossing the bridge twice. I think it's optimization. The next, probably the following question for this thing is that I think the Bezier algorithm is interesting, and I'm just curious that it is, and also the pathfinding things is interesting too. Is it possible that these two things can be one algorithm to really design a kind of pathing? And because I saw that somehow I saw that pathing is the pathfinding is kind of relies on the pattern you already have.
Yeah,
maybe 1, 2 can be integrated as one single algorithm, at the same time optimizing the structure and also optimizing the path. What do you think about this thing?
Yeah, I think definitely there'd be more research needed, obviously, but I think if there's possibility to combine or reduce the number of different steps required, then that will make things more efficient. And I think some of the limitations, which I didn't really speak upon, is getting on site with fabrication, or like we only had a limited reach of 1.8 meters with one KUKA robot. So you can imagine if you get on site and you're asking, the designs change slightly and you're asking a builder to deal with several different algorithms or, recalibrating the robots. Yeah, it would be, I think, ideal to kind of combine those things, and you can just say, okay, here, click this button, it'll reformat it, it'll restructure it, and go from there. So yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much. Any question for Kelton? Okay. If there's no further question, I think, thank you so much. Thank you. I think we done all the presentation in the section. Any final comments or thoughts or question for this section you want to share? Okay, if there's no, I think we can call it the end. Again, it's my pleasure to be chairing this section, and I think most of the research that we see in this section, that including the shape grammars and robotic fabrication in the concrete and carbon fiber, and also the VR technology, and also this a lot of different ideas, the hardware cutting. And I think this variety is stunning on this section. And thank you so much for coming. And that's it. Thank you.